Located less than 2 miles away from the San Diego coastline, Cultivaris Hemp is one of the leading suppliers of young hemp plants to farms across the country, while also providing commercial consulting services to help guide new farmers through the litany of local and federal hemp regulations. So let's have a chat today with the members of the Cultivaris team to see what it takes to run a successful commercial hemp farm.
I'm Minerva Ramirez and I'm the VP of Production for Cultivaris Hemp. My typical day looks like constantly troubleshooting issues, planting, delays in planting, planning stock for the next growth cycle, planning speculation for future orders, working with customers and dealing with their issues with plants, conference calls, getting cuttings planned out and orders in the system for them, and dealing with what issues they may have with the material they received 2 weeks prior. So it's a constant just repeating of all of that stuff on a daily basis, and of course the labor. The biggest part of it is the management of the labor and planning. The number of people that I manage here is 28 full-time and production employees, including managers, plus another 25 seasonal people, so probably around 55 of only production people. So we start off with cuttings, either supplied by us or by another grower, another breeder that wants us to do their varieties, and then we propagate them 4 or 5 weeks, and then we transplant into the gallon pots and start harvesting. The plants are about 16 weeks old, and then we start a new group. So it's a constant cycle of rotating stock and getting cuttings. So we'll use those same plants, or the original plants that we received initially. We keep a few of those, and those are the ones we build from again, a new group. Ideally, a mother plant should only be here maximum of 20 weeks. And so that ensures that we have really good vigor. What we see is as the plants get older, the cuttings get thinner. The plants don't grow as fast, the cuttings don't root as fast. So the plant just becomes really stressed, and we're growing in a 1 gallon pot. So maybe if we were in a larger gallon pot, the stock plants could have that good vigor over a longer period. But for us, and the way we do it, 20 weeks is the maximum. The cutting begins on the mother plants, and we have a crew of ladies that come twice a week, and they're taking the cuttings, and they have a specific size that they have to cut, and then they bag them. They go in the cooler, and then they're stuck within the next week. So the propagation process begins when they take the bags out of the cooler that they had harvested within the last week. They wash the cuttings, they use dip and grow, and they plant into the 50 cell tray or 72 cell tray. It takes about 7 to 14 days to root before we move them into a lower humidity environment, and then 2 weeks after that is when they're fully rooted. The type of grow media we use is Berger, which is I think it's a 50% peat and 50% perlite, and it's really coarse, and we use that to propagate into in a 50 cell tray. We choose that media because we have done numerous trials, and I've done so many trials over the past 23 years that I'm really familiar with the different medias, and we found that to be the most porous and the most consistent, that allowed the plants to root faster. So the whole thing is the faster you get the plants rooted, the faster you can change the environment and have a higher success rate. The longer they take to root, the higher losses you have. The temperature and humidity that's ideal for rooting initially is 72 degrees bottom heat, and environmental heat, like throughout the night, really, or day, shouldn't exceed 78. When you start to get the temperatures too high, you start to see the plants kind of wanting to stall out. They don't root as quickly. It's too stressful. And then we have booms that come and mist the plants every few minutes. And then at night, it's misting the plants, but less increments, because it's not as hot at night, but just to maintain the humidity. And the humidity would be somewhere between 65 to 80% humidity. If it gets too close below 65 and it's hot, the plants stress out completely and you could have really high losses. It's kind of a fine area. The hemp plants are very, very finicky. I've dealt with so many varieties of plants, and hemp has definitely been the most challenging for me and from the propagation side. After the initial 2 weeks in that high humidity, warm rooting temperature environment, they get moved into another section of the greenhouse where the bottom heat still stays the same, 70 degrees, but the humidity drops. So we slowly drop the humidity little by little over the course of about 3 days after we move them out of that first initial stage of rooting. What that does for the plants is it hardens them off slowly so the plants can get used to an outdoor ambient environment, hot air, dry air, full sun rather than under plastic or under shade or under heavy mist. And the plants are ready to go to our customers straight out to the field. When the plants are in the hardening off stage, we know how many are going into 15s and how many are going to stay as 50s. And so in the 4th week of propagation is when we make that separation and transplant the 15s and then leave the 50s for orders that are already made for 50s. The 15s are large 3.5-inch cell. There's 15 in a tray, and so we let them grow there for 3 to 4 weeks, and the plants are a really larger plant. It's probably equivalent to a 4-inch pot, each one of those, so there's 15 in a tray. And that allows the growers to be able to start a much larger plant rather than starting from one small 50 cell. The watering system for the mother plants is a spitter system, and we water 3 houses all at one time. And so it comes on, we schedule it to come on days like today. They could be watered twice. We're gonna hit over 100 degrees in here, so it'd be twice. When it's cooler weather and raining, they may do it every other day. So that's determined by the grower. The grower decides based on the weather, how often to water and how often to fertilize. The fertilization of the plants is done through an injection system. We use just one type of fertilizer. It's a water-soluble fertilizer. It's a 515, and a supplement on occasion based on if we're seeing any micronutrient deficiencies. They determine when they need to back off on the fertilizer based on the cards. They record the EC and pH every time they water. Our integrated pest management program is basically we're doing a weekly monitoring of insects on the plants. So our grower team comes in and they're scouting the same for 2 days, every week, the same 2 days, Mondays and Tuesdays, and they're monitoring what insects are present. They're monitoring if we have beneficial sachets that the beneficials are still releasing. So we check the sticky traps on those as well to make sure that those beneficials are still active. We check and see, okay, if there was hot spots the week prior, did our treatments, be it chemical or beneficial insect applications, did they help or did it not help? And then we need to go back and say, okay, that didn't work. Let's start over. What is our other option? And so it's just doing that continually. Every week after every application, we scout and see, okay, where are we? And also managing the age of the plants. So we have to track, okay, if we're ready to dump this stock group in 2 weeks, why am I gonna buy a whole new set of beneficials that release over 4 weeks? So then we would do the loose release beneficials rather than the sachets. So it's kind of managing the approach to make sure that we're not wasting a lot of money, but keeping the population of insects to a minimum.